Hello there guys and welcome, it is Niran here, and today it is time for me to bring you, after its summer break, it is time to bring you another episode of Sainz Career Mode here on F1 2015. Today we are brought to Belgium in the Ardennes forest, and as you can see, rather predictably, the weather is rather unpredictable. It's raining here at the start of a practice. It's also scheduled or sort of forecast to rain in qualifying. Maybe you'll see a bit during the race, but I'm not entirely sure on that one. Nevertheless, if you did miss any of the recent Sainz Junior Career Mode races, feel free to check them out in the description. There will be the playlist there. But if we could smash 50 likes on this episode of Sainz Career, that would be absolutely awesome. But before we get into the race, it's time for the qualifying report. Q1 would see a flurry of accidents in the wet conditions, including contact for Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, but crucially championship leader Lewis Hamilton, which would see him receive a 5-place grid penalty. The second session of the day would be far less hectic and would be topped by Nico Rosberg. Both Toro Rossos made it into the shootout, whilst Nico Hülkenberg and Daniel Kvyat underperformed in 13th and 14th. Q3 would see a pole position, finally, for Nico Rosberg from Ferrari's Sebastian Vettel. Lewis Hamilton could only manage 5th, which would become 10th with his grid penalty, whilst Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen managed a fantastic 5th and 6th respectively. So reading from 10th upwards, it's Lewis Hamilton way down the order in 10th thanks to his grid penalty alongside Felipe Nasr of Sauber. Daniel Ricciardo and Felipe Massa are on row 4 behind an all Toro Rosso row 3 of Sainz and Verstappen. It's an all finish row 2 of Raikkonen and Bottas, but it's Rosberg who would take pole for the Belgian Grand Prix from fellow countryman Sebastian Vettel. So a very good qualifying then, not only for Carlos Sainz but also his teammate Max Verstappen in a very good qualifying for Toro Rosso. Not so good for Lewis Hamilton, who ends up with a 5-place grid penalty, but as you can see it is dry unlike it was for qualifying on the Saturday. Certainly for the start of this race, but it's cloudy. The dark clouds are up above Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and we'll have to see whether this race is even slightly rain affected. As you can see, if it does stay dry, we are scheduled for a 2-stop strategy, stopping on lap 7 or 8 for another set of options, and then on lap 14 or 15 for a set of primes. But now it is time to get underway. The 5 lights are now on, and they are now off, and we are underway here for the Belgian Grand Prix. It's an okay start for Sainz, but a very good launch for Valtteri Bottas, the Finn in the Williams, trying to go around the outside of his fellow countryman there, Kimi Raikkonen, into La Source through lap 1. Behind us, Felipe Massa has managed to get past Sainz's teammate Max Verstappen and is up into 6th place, so the Dutchman is already down 1 position. Up Eau Rouge and through Radion we now go. Going onto the Kemmel Straight, Sainz has got a fantastic run on both the Ferrari of Kimi Raikkonen and the Williams of Valtteri Bottas in front of him. Switching back to on board, he's going to breeze past Kimi Raikkonen down the Kemmel Straight, outbrakes himself and lunges up the inside down into the com of Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas is squeezed out and Sainz is onto the podium after a fantastic 5th place on the grid. Verstappen of course taking 6th, but contrasting fortunes for those guys on the first lap. Verstappen down 1 place, but Sainz up 2 places. We're going to see a replay of this as well in a moment, but it's Rosberg leading from Vettel, of course, with Lewis Hamilton so far down the order after that grid penalty in qualifying. As you can see, there is a replay. Sainz pretty much breezing past Raikkonen, but then sort of outbraking himself, and in the end just making the move on Valtteri Bottas and squeezing him to the edge of the track through La Com. Going on to lap 2, and as you can see, Vettel and Rosberg, the 2 Germans at the front of the field, are galloping away already from Carlos Sainz. They go through La Source again for a second time. Now on to lap 4, coming to the head there of Eau Rouge and down the Kemmel Straight. On to lap 4, of course, which means the DRS is now enabled, as that is enabled on lap 3, and Valtteri Bottas is taking full advantage of it and trying to go round the outside down into La Com. He goes around the outside, he might just complete the move, but Sainz will have the inside going into the 3rd element of the chicane. There's a yellow flag out behind, we'll have to see what that was for, but Sainz just about holds on in front of Valtteri Bottas. Meanwhile, 2 Lotuses are going at it as they come out of Eau Rouge down the Kemmel Straight. Grosjean loses it completely there with the DRS, of course, less downforce, and he's lost control of the car, smacked into Maldonado and then smacked into the wall and lost his front wing. So all going wrong for Lotus. Their 2 cars making contact, and a dismal season just gets worse for them. But on to lap 5, and Sainz is experiencing horrendous tyre issues, coming into the pit lane there through the bus stop, and that was so close with Kimi Raikkonen. Astonishing, having to cut across the Ferrari driver, and only onto the end of lap 5 2 laps earlier, Carlos Sainz, I know he's got a heavy car, but that Toro Rosso clearly is not too kind on its tyres because they are already chewed up and spat out by that Renault-powered car. Into the pit lane he comes in the start of lap 6 to put on a new set of the option tyres. Kvyat, Ericsson, Alonso and Button and the 2 McLarens are going through La Source now, so it looks as if he'll have a battle on his hands as soon as he comes out of the pit lane on those cold tyres. Through filter all of the 4 before-mentioned drivers, and it's Jenson Button right in front of Sainz going through the DRS activation zone. Sainz will get the DRS even though he'd only just come out of the pit lane, but he doesn't even need it to pass the extremely slow in a straight line McLaren Honda, and through he goes past Button, and he'll now use the DRS and slipstream to get past the other McLaren and make 2 manoeuvres on the same straight, down the Kemmel straight there, passing 2 drivers, switching to the aerial shot there from their helicopter now, and Sainz has got right on the back of Ericsson. Of course, all of these guys have got hideously old tyres, and through he goes there with just a nice undercut down into Ravage, into this sweeping downhill hairpin. He goes past the Swede and the Sauber. Next up is Danny Kvyat in the Red Bull as well, who's down the order in 13th. Not the greatest of qualifyings for him, but not a very good race for him either. And down into Pouon, Sainz going up the inside of Kvyat in the bigger brother car and makes it through fairly easily. So up until on lap 6 now, he's in 13th place. He was 16th coming out of the pit lane, but has made some moves. Kvyat is behind. Yellow flag's actually out, and Kvyat slowing there drastically, having just been passed by Sainz. I think he might have picked up a puncture. We'll see on board now with the Russian driver, and there you can see, yeah, the front right just delaminating, and he actually collects the Sauber there of Marcus Ericsson, which allows the 2 McLarens to sneak up the inside. We'll see on board now with the Swede Marcus Ericsson, as you can see, just sent into a half spin there by the very slow Danny Kvyat, and it does allow Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso through. Nevertheless, on to lap 7, and Sainz is now going down the start-finish straight. Lewis Hamilton was in the pit lane on that lap, serviced, and with a new fresh set of boots on that car, and he's been beaten quite substantially by Sainz down at the pit lane. The undercut there working absolutely fantastically for the Spaniard. Later on the same lap, and Sergio Perez is the next victim of that Toro Rosso, and through around the outside of Ravage. Lovely move there from Carlos Sainz. He won't get a chance to pass Hulkenberg and Nasser, who are the 2 cars in front of him, because they have peeled into the pit lane after the bus stop. And as you can see, Sainz is breezing past multiple cars and is up into 4th place. Now, the reason why he's not up into 3rd, where he was before, is because Daniel Ricciardo in the Red Bull, I think much like his teammate Daniel Kvyat, is trying a one-stop strategy, which I would have thought is completely suicidal around a track like this. As you can see, moving on to lap 9, and look at the damage gauge on that Toro Rosso. That car is so harsh on its tyres. On to lap 10, and Lewis Hamilton is going around the outside, down into La Source. He had the DRS, of course, down the home straight, because that is actually the first DRS zone, and Hamilton, though, has outbroken himself massively going through La Source, and it's allowed Raikkonen and Valtteri Bottas in the Williams through. Felipe Massa's dropped back quite substantially because he was actually stacked behind his Finnish teammate in the pit lane. So he's a good 4 or 5 seconds back. Meantime, Sainz is now catching the 2 Red Bulls actually in front of him, Daniel Ricciardo and Daniel Kvyat, after going a lap down because of that puncture. It's Ricciardo who was first in line though, but meantime, Kimi Raikkonen is trying a fantastic move around the outside through Lacon. Bit of contact there, Kimi Raikkonen sticks his hand up and Sainz just squeezes him well out wide there onto the AstroTurf and gravel. And very, very forceful stuff there from Sainz, but down into Ravage, he's outbroken himself, and it's allowing Raikkonen up the inside this time, down into the corner with no name. Raikkonen trying to stick it around the outside, but Sainz gets a much better run out of the corner and down towards Pouon, and it looks as if Sainz will easily hold on to the position down into this left-hand corner. Hamilton trying to move around the outside of Bottas through Pouon as well, but Ricciardo's dropped so far behind Kvyat. It's going so slowly into the braking zone. Sainz has to avoid him there, locking up, because Ricciardo broke so early, and again Raikkonen is trying to get on the inside. This time there's a little bit of contact, and it spits Sainz onto the grass there on the inside, going through Stabilo 1 and then Stabilo 2. Hamilton goes through, and Bottas just forces himself up the inside there, giving Sainz the hip and shoulder in the Williams. Raikkonen, in the meantime, is trying to get past Daniel Ricciardo, but he's got it all wrong. He's hit the wall, the yellow flags are out, Raikkonen's broken his front wing. Bottas loses out to Sainz in the melee, and going through Blanchimont, the Spaniard, has now got a fantastic run on Lewis Hamilton. Daniel Ricciardo in front in the slipstream. Sainz pulls out down into the bus stop. Ricciardo's still going so slowly. A little bit of contact between the Toro Rosso and the Red Bull, but Raikkonen's got a broken front wing. Ricciardo peels into the pit lane for his first and only pit stop of the day, and somehow Sainz has managed to gain back 4 positions that he lost after the contact with Raikkonen there towards the end of the lap. and got DRS down the home straight. No clue how absolute carnage is descending on Belgium, and the action is not over yet, because down towards Eau Rouge, and Lewis Hamilton is making a move, making a run there on Sainz. Surely he's not going to try and go round the outside into Eau Rouge and then Radion. He doesn't in the end. He backs out of it as they go onto the Kemmel straight. Now time to look at a replay. This is from the back end of Ricciardo. You can see how close it got between Sainz there, who was just carrying way more speed there going into the corner. Then the little bit of contact there as well between Sainz and Raikkonen. That allowed Hamilton and Bottas up the inside of the Toro Rosso driver. Now Kimi Raikkonen is trying to make a move as they come out of Stabilo 2 and down towards Blanchimont. He's in the slipstream, ducks out, makes a bit of contact, unsettles the car and goes straight into the wall and breaks his front wing. Now on board with Lewis Hamilton, who got a bird's eye grandstand view of the whole incident. Here you can see Sainz there going off. That allows Lewis Hamilton easily up the inside into Stabilo 1. And there you can see Bottas forcing his way up the inside and following suit. Now we've got Kimi Raikkonen and Daniel Ricciardo in front in the Ferrari and Red Bull respectively. Raikkonen pulls out, gets out of shape, hits Ricciardo, then hits the wall. Hamilton makes it through, but Sainz, who gets the best run out of everyone. Bottas and Hamilton both having to lift off quite substantially, and through Blanchimont, Sainz has got way more speed down into the bus stop chicane. He goes up the inside, makes a tiny bit of contact with Ricciardo, and after 2 bouts of contact in 1 lap, Ricciardo decides enough is enough, and he peels into the pit lane. On to lap 11 now, and down into Ravage. Sainz is going wide yet again, and this time Valtteri Bottas, who's managed to get past the Brit and the Mercedes Lewis Hamilton, is going around the outside through the corner with no name, using the AstroTurf, maybe exceeding track limits there to get through, but in the end, he's made it through cleanly. Sainz has got no tyre life left whatsoever here on lap 11. He's gone way too wide there, massive amounts of understeer through Pouon, and that's allowed Lewis Hamilton through, and Sainz is going to have to pit again on this lap. This car is munching through tyres like it's absolutely nobody's business, and on the end of that same lap, as Massa and Verstappen drive through, there you can see the tyre wear on that front right is absolutely disgraceful. Onto the start of lap 12, and Sainz is in for his second and final pit stop, hopefully for him, of the day, but he's now got to make these prime tyres last 11 laps till the end. Now, given the way this car has absolutely munched through tyres so far in this Grand Prix, I think it's pretty unlikely that Sainz is going to do that. As you can see, Daniel Ricciardo drives through, having got a much bigger undercut on Sainz, so Sainz has got to repass him out on track because they both made their final pit stops of the day. Daniel Ricciardo is actually held up behind the slow and tyre wear ridden Lotus of Pastor Maldonado as they go through Stabilo 1 and down towards Blanchimont. Sainz actually got a great run on both Ricciardo here and Maldonado. He breezes past Ricciardo, has to lift off down towards Blanchimont because of how slow Maldonado's going. Maldonado then goes off through Blanchimont, and that allows Sainz through. Now on to lap 14, and cars are in the pit lane, namely Lewis Hamilton. In front of Sainz is Nico Hülkenberg, who is still yet to pit for the second time in this Grand Prix, but out of the pit lane comes Lewis Hamilton. Now, that is who he is aiming at, because those guys are racing, they're battling for actual sort of net position out on the track. Lewis Hamilton, however, has got cold tyres. Now, Nico Hülkenberg in the Force India is going to get the benefit of DRS and can do Sainz a massive favour here by going up the inside down into La Com and holding Hamilton up, and that is exactly what he's done. Nico Hülkenberg will firmly be added to the Christmas card list of Sainz, because Sainz now, with a bit of squirt coming out of the La Com chicane, is going to go up the inside down into Ravage of the cold-tyred machine that is Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes, and through he goes up into 8th place. That will be a net, I think, 4th place, because Bottas and Raikkonen will come out in a similar position as sorry, not Raikkonen, Bottas, sorry, will come out in a similar position. As you can see, Hülkenberg on a very old set of option tyres, down into Pouon. Hülkenberg goes a little bit wide, and that allows Sainz through, but crucially, Hülkenberg stays in front of Lewis Hamilton, so Hülkenberg really doing a fantastic job of letting Sainz through and holding up Lewis Hamilton, an absolute treat. Going towards the end of the lap, though, of course, Sainz is on a slightly older set of prime tyres, going through La Source for the 15th time in this Grand Prix, and that is Valtteri Bottas in the Williams, who is coming out of the pit lane. Kimi Raikkonen, having pitted slightly earlier, is still behind Carlos Sainz, so he's not got to worry about him as of yet in the Ferrari, but as you can see, what a run Sainz gets on Bottas. Even without the DRS he was going to get on the Kemmel straight, he absolutely breezes past that Williams with its cold tyres going through a Rouge, and back up into 3rd place he goes. Now it's all about making the tyres last, and they are not doing so. Going through a Rouge, you can see the tyre wear. These tyres are not going to make it to the end of the race. They're absolutely not. Sainz has got to make a decision here. He's either got to pray for the elements to be on his side, pray for an absolute miracle that these tyres go to the end without a puncture, or he's got to pit for another set of option tyres. Either way, unless he gets a miracle out of the whole situation, he's going to finish a long way down the order. Bottas has gone through and up onto the podium positions, and there's, in all honesty, nothing Sainz can do. Bottas is already a long way down the straight when Lewis Hamilton makes the same move as they go down the Kemmel straight down into La Com. Lewis Hamilton dives up the inside, brakes later, and Sainz is now down into 5th place. But he's got quite a big gap back to Ricciardo, Massa and Kimi Raikkonen, who occupy 6th, 7th and 8th currently in this race. It is Ricciardo at the moment, but on to lap 20, and Felipe Massa is the man up into 6th. But as you can see, I don't know if you can see this at the moment, but is that rain on the camera lens and on the car? We'll have a look a little bit later on, but the temperatures are starting to go down on the car, on the tyres, and on to lap 21, it's chucking it down. Meanwhile, it's not stopping Felipe Massa making an extraordinary move up into Blanchimont at the inside of Carlos Sainz. Through he goes, but Sainz is not going to let this one die down. Up the inside, he goes into the bus stop, locks up, there's a tiny bit of contact, but I think he's just about going to hold it around the outside. He decides to stay out for the final lap of the race. He's caught between a rock and a hard place. He's got ridiculous tyre wear, but if he comes in now, he can't put options on because we're now sort of into intermediate territory, but he can't come in and put intermediate tyres on because then he loses 5th and drops to 9th. So he's either just got to try and make it to the end beyond all belief and just hope that these tyres hold on, because pitting was the wrong option, but as you can see, it hasn't changed anything, because Carlos Sainz, on the final lap of the race, going through a rouge, has suffered a tyre blowout on the front right, and that is an absolutely tragic end to such a fantastic race. This race has been absolutely astonishing. But Felipe Massa is through, Raikkonen is through, he's going to have to let the two Red Bulls through as well. Kvyat, who's 2 laps down, but Ricciardo for position. So Sainz is now down to 8th. Here comes the other Toro Rosso of Max Verstappen, who I may add, has had a fantastic race, and he's rewarded now with an extra position. But Sainz, having been 3rd for so long, maybe he should have come in for intermediate tyres, but it wasn't ready for intermediate tyres. The track was not ready for intermediate tyres on the penultimate lap of the race. It only became ready on the final lap of the race, and he would have lost too much time in the pit lane to be able to gain it back on the right tyre compound. And as you can see, he's running out of tyre pressure, he's running out of fuel, but he's crucially running out of time on that final lap, and he will not be classified in this race. Carlos Sainz, although will finish in 16th position because he only finished a lap down, will not be classified in this race. It is a DNF, than the first of the season for Carlos Sainz after running out basically of fuel and getting a puncture on the final lap of the race. It was a stretch too far in the end, but pitting was only going to get him 9th maximum, so he's really only lost out on 2 points in terms of best case scenario, because he was never going to make the tyres last. In the end, they didn't. Rosberg won with Vettel 2nd. Hamilton recovered from 10th after a grid penalty to take the final podium position after passing Bottas with a few laps to go. Massa was 5th from Ricciardo, Verstappen, Nasser and Hülkenberg rounding out the top 10, but Sainz DNFs, and this is the moment it all went wrong. So a horrible way for things to end for Carlos Sainz here in Belgium after looking like he could take a podium, but Lewis Hamilton comes out still on top in the drivers' standings by 25 points after Nico Rosberg took the win with the Brit only in 3rd. Raikkonen drops to 3rd in the championship in front of his teammate Vettel with Ricciardo, Bottas and Massa in 5th, 6th and 7th. Sainz stays in 8th, but now further adrift of the two Williams and Ricciardo in front, with Kvyat, Nasser, Verstappen and Hülkenberg rounding out the top 12. Then it's Button and Alonso join in 13th for McLaren from Grosjean, Maldonado and the rest of the non-point scorers. There is the Constructors' Championship in the background, but what an incredible race for the neutrals. Such a disappointing one though for Carlos Sainz Jr. But in the end, just an absolutely magnificent race with all sorts of carnage and accidents and action throughout, from the very start until the very end, as it proved, with Sainz quite eerily getting a tyre blowout exactly where Sebastian Vettel got his for Ferrari in real life in Belgium. But I hope you did enjoy that crazy race of Sainz's career. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you're new around here as well. Comment about enjoying the video if you enjoyed it that much. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today, and after such a good race but such a disappointing result, have a good day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.